chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, as well as the Blended podcast and the founder of the Blended Pledge. And I am here on site in Long Beach at IANA Expo. Yesterday, we hosted a pickleball slam, and it was amazing. Congratulations to the overall winners. We had such a great time, and we're actually going to be doing that pickleball slam again at TPM. So I hope that you can join us there as well. All right. Now, we do need to give a shout out to our show sponsor, the Secret Society of Supply Chain, and we've got some new members that I want to give a shout out to. So Jessica Vienendahl, we've got Laura Mason, we've also got Gayatri. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to join us as well, it's secretsocietyofsupplychain.com. It's our newest membership group, and everybody is active and talking there and everything like that. Nicole, if you're listening, let's put up that overlay. That would be awesome. We've got a great show for you today. We've got David from OneRail on the show coming on, and we're going to be talking about last mile delivery, but not the way you think about it, because it might have to do with horse-drawn carriages, but it also has to do with a little bit of AI as well. Well, before we bring him on, let's get into what is happening on Let's Talk Supply Chain. So we've got a brand new live show. This is happening Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn and YouTube page. They're going to be talking about beyond packaging, how data and AI are redefining cold chain logistics. So click the attend button, even if you can't attend live, because we're going to send you the link to watch the recording afterwards. October 1st, I am going live at 1 p.m. Eastern with Conrad from Graphite. If you don't know Conrad, you're definitely going to want to tune into this one, because we're talking about cutting onboarding time and giving procurement the speed advantage. Now, this is going to take you into the next level for your business, your procurement teams, and there's going to be a ton of insight shared. And then on October 2nd, we're also going to be going live at 2 p.m. Eastern with Bryant Smith from Manhattan. Bryant is a friend of the show. He's been on the show, at least the podcast, a couple of times. I've gone live at Manhattan as well with Bryant, and he's always sharing some amazing insights. And we're going to be talking about what smarter, stronger transportation looks like by 2030. And if you think that that is really far away, it kind of isn't. So we definitely need to be talking about the future of transportation management. And then on November 6th, we're doing something a little bit fun. So I'm actually going to be on site in Paris for this one. And I'm going to be doing all sorts of interviews with a lot of the professionals and leaders who are going to be at the VizNow conference. But then we're going to be sharing the insights from the ground with you at, I think it's 1 p.m. Eastern on November 6th. So again, for all of these, click the attend button, even if you can't attend live, because we will send you the link. A Supply Chain Brain webinar as well coming up. That's October 21st, 11 a.m. Eastern, and that's with Delmia, and we're going to be talking about a case study and how they worked with a customer and used integrated intelligence to stay resilient. And I have a different take on resilience. I actually went to a conference just recently with my team, and they were talking about resilience in a little bit of a different way. So I'm going to share that with you on that webinar. All right, where are we going to be? Well, in-person conferences, I just talked about Visibility Now. I'm going to be in Paris November 6th. And then I'm going to be at the Woman in Supply Chain Forum, which I'm going to share a little bit more in just a second. And then Manifest February 9th through 11th. We're going to be recording podcasts on site. So if you're going to be there, make sure to reach out. But for the Woman in Supply Chain Forum, Katie Date and I are going to be running a workshop on November 20th at 9 a.m. Eastern. And we're talking about building confidence and community for women leaders in supply chain. I'm going to have a copy of my new book there and do a little bit of a book signing, which is really exciting. So If you don't have your tickets, I hope you're going to grab your tickets because we'd love to see you at that workshop. And last but not least, that's it. It's time to bring up our guest for today. Good morning, David. How you doing?
Good morning, Sarah. Doing well. How about you?
Great, great. I mean, it's a little bit early on the West Coast, I'm not going to lie, but I'm happy to be here. And actually, in saying that, I want to hear from everybody who's in the audience today. Where are you tuning in from? Make sure to put those in the comments. And again, if you like what we're talking about today, I love to see a good fire emoji. So make sure to put those in the comments. We'll put you up on the screen. We'll give you a shout out. And we'd love to hear from you. So, David, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and a little bit about OneRail?
Yeah. So I'm David Daeschler, EVP Data Science and AI. Basically, I head up the analytics, modeling, and execution, so automated execution here at OneRail. That's everything from building reinforcement learning models through making sure that our discrete optimizers are working properly and lots of other mumbo jumbo-y sounding stuff, but as well as listening to feedback from our human teams on what things need to be prioritized and optimized. I was OneRail's first CTO for the first 4 years, responsible for about 4 million lines of code. And then, we realized we had a pile of data and we just didn't have enough time to sort of execute on it. And so Bill, CEO, and I came to a conclusion that, hey, we need to start doing something with this. And now we've activated lots of data to very good results. I mean, we've really put a system together that is much better at automated decisioning. There's lots of internal savings that we've achieved, as well as obviously that goes to our customers as well, when we can keep the rate card prices low and keep their costs low. And so kind of benefits everybody. Super happy to be here, though. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Now it's good to see you because you and I had a bit of a conversation. Side note, I don't want to give away any of the secrets, but you have a good idea of what we're working on for 2026, and it's pretty exciting for us. And I think
Very
that
cool.
conversation was a little bit exciting for you as well because I mean, as much as I can nerd out on technology, we nerded out a little bit, but you didn't go into too many acronyms, which I do appreciate. But 4 million lines of code is a lot.
It
That's a
sure is.
big job.
It sure is. And it is really, to kind of connect the people back together. It's sort of like based on what we learned, right? Like a lot of things were manually done. We had systems that weren't directly connected and weren't automated in the beginning. And we were taught by the people at the time on how these executions should look. What does this decision look like? How do we want to do it? Which modes and all of that. And all of that human knowledge was then put into a system that um, takes advantage of the fact that the computer can track like much more data. But otherwise, there's still a lot of the human touch left in all the code. It's still very much geared towards what do we as people care about. The robots, maybe they'll have their own agenda someday, but right now they need to care about what we care about. So we need to
Yeah.
understand that really well to make it work.
Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on with one of our articles, but I do want to get to the poll of the week. So, we ask everybody a question every single Wednesday morning on our Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page. And the question was, how is your organization currently leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning in your supply chain? Now, we had 12 votes on this one, and that actually does not surprise me at all because a lot of people, I think, are talking about it, but a lot of people are very hesitant to talk about either A, what they're doing, because I'm not sure everybody really knows what that means for them. And so, it's interesting because we had a tie across the board. 33% for every single one of those responses. So actively using AI was 33%, considering testing AI is 33%, and no AI was 33%. What did you think about this, David? Was it a little bit surprising for you?
Not really. I think the 33% actively using AI and ML might be the biggest surprise. It's as far as like supply chain goes, there's a lot of human knowledge embedded, right? And so sometimes when you're, especially, I know that when our teams have looked into some of these jobs, you walk into this, how are we even going to automate this thing? It's like, this seems impossible. There's just so many
Right.
decisions to make. There's all this nuance to it. And so you do get into some pretty advanced machine learning techniques and things. And then, there's use cases for AI for voice and having agents be able to talk with people, but they have to be good enough to not annoy people too. I mean, nobody wants to sit on the phone with something that can't help them, but then they're locked into this loop of, machine that's not helping and they can't figure out how to get a person type thing. So there's a lot of balance to be had too. You have to make sure you want optimal results, but also that people have to be able to work with it, and it has to be like one of those things that adds to the business, right? Like not just the bottom line, but in general, like all throughout, how do you make sure that the stuff that you're plugging in really helps your customers and their customers, especially in our case, right? So I think it's complicated, and
Yeah.
so I can see there's a lot of hands off. We just keep doing it the way we know because it's working for us. And a lot of times we see that retained until sort of like we'll come in as advisors and show them like, here's what you could do with just a few changes. We're not telling you to blow out everything that you're doing, but
Right.
here's what we can offer, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I think that that's, super interesting in how everybody, and I was going to keep this stat until later. So I mentioned at the top of the show that I was recently at a conference. It was not a supply chain conference. And I was listening to a neuroscientist called Andrew Huberman. And he said that the window of opportunity to optimize workflows with AI is 18 months.
Yeah.
And I just want to put that out there and let that sink in for a minute, because 33% of them said they weren't using AI. And if you think about having a window of 18 months to optimize your workflows, it's a little bit terrifying if you're not even dipping your toes into it,
Yep.
because you don't have a lot of time. And so I don't say that to scare anybody, but I do say that so that we really are thinking about what that means for us, our businesses, our teams, and optimizing our workflows. Now, I do want to get into our first article, but before we do that, I love this part of the show because I ask you a bit of a market update. Now, you were recently at the Doorstep conference, I think it was.
That's
What
correct.
were people thinking about? What was top of mind? What were they talking about?
Well, I went there to talk about the final part of the last mile, right? Like, there's a lot of technology that can sort of track. Everybody loves it when they can see where their delivery is coming back, and if like, hey, I have an hour, I need to get back home to make sure I'm there for this package. But a lot of times. Stuff gets lost at the very end. It's sort of like I've lived in pretty large apartment complexes, and I'm still in a decent sized one right now, and the package systems and the way that you have to actually go find where to put the stuff once you're in that last leg can be really difficult. You need codes and access and all of that kind of stuff, and where do I even go to put this thing? And so I was talking with one of our partners, Doorstep.ai, about their vision for that. What happens when the GPS doesn't work anymore? Which, if you get
Yes.
into a tall building or you're in the middle of New York City with lots of tall buildings around, those satellites, they need line of sight to be able to provide your location, right? They lose that rather quickly. And so they developed a product that we're tapping into right now, which allows you to get directions inside buildings, right? And so now you're somebody that has to make a delivery happen. You're able to walk around. You get these kind of turn by turn indoor directions. You can see where you have to go to leave something at somebody's door or in the package room or all of that. And then they in turn can see the path that you took to go and deliver that item as well. So now, we have advanced AI POD that tells you whether or not a picture looks like it's dropped in the correct locations and things like that. But now you also have this whole trace back of like, hey, we have a POD and we know kind of where they left it, because I can't count the number of times that it was just like a wall somewhere. And I'm like, where did you put my stuff? Like, that is not a cheap thing, like a computer monitor or something. I want to know where you put it in the package room. It's not there. Where is it? And so this is helping to solve that kind of problem. And so
That
um,
is it's so interesting. And I hate to interrupt, but I remember being downtown Toronto and having to like navigate, but like the GPS was like bouncing off of buildings and it would change on me.
yeah.
And you're trying to drive, obviously not safely, because you don't
And
know
it's
where
like
you're going.
you're somewhere in this 30-mile circle. Good luck. And you're like, well, that doesn't tell me anything.
Does not help me. And also, I love that so much because I used to be in logistics and PODs were the bane of my existence. And they would take so long to get and all that kind of stuff. And that actually brings us to our first article, because I kind of want to talk about that, around PODs and how something is delivered right now. So I don't know if anybody has heard of, I don't know if I'm saying this properly, but Mackinac Island, and I think it's just off of Michigan, but there is no cars on this island, and they've got about 500 year-round residents. You might be thinking, what does this have to do with supply chain? Well, this whole article is how Amazon actually delivers packages to the residents on that island. And this article also talks about how for most of the year, they have to order everything that they need online. So they really need Amazon. But the cool part about it is that Amazon delivers by horse and dray, I think they called it. I don't know what they mean by dray, because I know what drayage means. But I guess horse and buggy, maybe? I'm not entirely sure. But this was fascinating. And the fact that they're doing it by horses and not really thinking about drones, maybe drones will come in the future. I don't know. What did you think about this, David?
I think it's amazing. I mean, there was a time before, vehicles and stuff did get delivered, right? So it's kind of like harken back to the same type of constraints that you do deal with motorized vehicles or robots or anything else. You have to know that, first of all, can the horse hold your thing, right? You're not delivering a refrigerator, on top of a horse. So maybe that cart thing, maybe if somebody needs a refrigerator, they're putting it on there. But at the same time, like, you still have to know like how much space you have available. And I'm sure forever human beings that are moving stuff around have had to worry about this. Like, well, does that fit on? And the interesting thing about the way that we planned out our network is it is sort of agnostic to vehicle or mode or anything. We just need to know like how much stuff can go on that. Like, what is the maximum weight and size? And
Yeah.
given that, we could also, schedule delivery by horse. And so I do think it's great to just kind of going back to our roots, and that ultimately it's just taking something somebody wants and getting it to them regardless of the mode, right?
Yeah. Well, and also part of the article, so they talked about how when one of the residents presses the buy now button, the product goes warehouse to warehouse to warehouse to ferry to Sarah on the island, which, great name, by the way. Although there's no H, but that's okay. We will forgive that. To the horse, to the doorstep. So that
Yeah.
is the supply chain of a package that goes to this island, which I thought was fun.
I think that sounds more relaxing than lots of other supply chains.
I mean, there's a little bit too much handling for me. I'm not gonna lie, because if it's breakable, right, that's a lot of handling. Warehouse to ferry to,
Well, you have to wonder too, like, is the suspension on that little cart good, or are we bouncing everything up and down? Like, how
right?
into the past have we gone here?
Well, and I mean, the video that they show is the package sort of sitting on the bench,
Hmm.
behind the horse. And I'm like, no, no, no. We need a basket to protect the goods in the box. Anyways, I'm getting totally beside myself. But I thought that that was such a fun article. I hope you all go to read it. It's actually in the comments as we speak. And I do want to get to our next article because we've got a lot to talk about on that one. But I want to give a shout out to Audria. I think she's watching us on a couple of LinkedIn channels. And so I really appreciate you. And again, if you love the conversation, make sure to give us a fire emoji. Love our fire emojis and want to know where you're tuning in from. All right. Second article. So this is obviously from OneRail. And David, you participated in this one. And what I love about this is that you said it's no longer, or it's never been about tech forward, people last, right? I actually called it tech and human forward. You guys called it tech forward, people first. And I know we're talking a lot about AI. Listen, you can't go anywhere or listen to any conversation without AI coming into this. But I think my last comment around you've got 18 months to optimize workflows with AI before you get left behind really has relevance here. And like you said, it's not about changing everything. It's really just changing a few things, or at least getting started and figuring out what that looks like for you. So David, talk to me about this article. What are some of the key points in here that you want everybody to know about? And also, you talk about your session at Doorstep. Was there any key insights from there that you wanted to share?
So yeah, let's start with the article. It really is it's got to be a human-led project to optimize, even when it comes down to advanced. We're talking like advanced discrete optimization, reinforcement learning, which is closer to the AIs of that we chat with right now. But it all comes down to understanding what the problem is that you're trying to solve. And you'll see some of the best supply chain optimization operations research people talk about this. You can build the perfect model, right? It's perfectly optimizes every time. But if you're optimizing the wrong thing, or you haven't taken into account what's important to everybody at the table, you haven't really optimized. Nobody's going to want to run your model, and it'll get totally rejected when it comes to deploying it to the business. So optimization is both the mathematics and techniques and engineering that it takes, but also the time to really understand what we call your reward function, your value function, even your cost function, right? And so for us, that comes down to understanding where things go wrong, what the objectives are, what we pay for, either directly or indirectly, right? Like you pay for costs of running vehicles, but you also indirectly pay when somebody can't, let's say it's a very large truck and somebody can't use a specific road or something. You're paying an extra cost for them to go around.
Mhm.
And it's about understanding that at a very large scale. And the only way to do that is with people that have the experience that can understand where things are going to go wrong. And you can sort of start to measure that. Um, so what we do is a mixture of different kinds of models. We use discrete optimization, like many do. We have a very large project called OmniStar that is a mix between discrete and what basically probabilistic, like the chance of something going wrong, right? And we take that into account. And the reward functions for these models are specified by people, by our operations staff, by our customers. They know what costs them money. Like when somebody can't find something, or a package gets damaged, or things like that, all of those things are taken into account. And we're building the model with those things in mind to try to minimize or maximize the good and bad, and through all of it though, like even the best models, we still have what we call delivery support, or LSS, that takes care of the exceptions, the things that happen that the model couldn't possibly know about, that need to be handled by human beings. These are drivers that are lost. They can't figure out where they're going, and that could blow the SLA. That could cost a lot of money. These are cars breaking down and having to do a recovery. All of those things also require people to be there to answer questions, to be able to figure out what to do, because these situations are all very specific. And so that's where our exceptions assist team comes in. And so that article talks a lot about this sort of hybrid model. And even, what I really want to press is that even given this advanced technology, these computers, some of our models running on GPUs. So of course, NVIDIA is getting more money from us. We're putting a couple very large machines into a data center for more NVIDIA power, because a few of our models, including our AI vision models and stuff, run on GPU, right? Cool. We got all that technology over here. It's doing work, but ultimately it's a tool, right? It is a tool
Yeah.
that we're using to solve a problem. And if we haven't defined the problem correctly, we're not solving anything, right? And so I think that's the
Mhm.
biggest thing I'd want to get across.
Well, and I think it's interesting that you're talking about how you're solving for problems, not only within your organization, and then we talk about your customers solving for those problems and wanting to work together, right? And
Hmm.
everybody's learning together, right?
That's right. Most
Nobody
of
has all the answers.
That's right. No, most of I've been on a lot of calls recently with customers and potential customers, and it is teamwork together. It's learning how to execute our models, given their data, our models given their inputs, and then bending and shaping our models for the future, so that we can make a more generalized model that works for not just internally, but is working for everybody externally, given the amount of data they can provide. And that's a big factor too. Like, how much data do you really have? What can you send for us to work together to figure out how to minimize or maximize the things that you want?
Yeah, well, and I think also the other thing to note is that investment is happening on both sides as well, right? It has to be a journey, I think, with the partners, right? You have to take a
Mhm.
journey with the partner, and everybody's got a role. Everybody's got responsibility. Everybody's making investments, and communication is really key for that. One other point I want to make for this article, and go and check it out because it's in the comments. They do talk about a case study around Tractor Supply, and I had a panel with Tractor Supply at Home Delivery World just a few months ago, but talking about how they're future ready and what that looks like for Tractor Supply. supply. So definitely go and check that out. But we do need to get to our last article, and this one's kind of fun. I do want to give a shout out first to Austin. We got our first fire emoji from Austin. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, let's get to our last article. So this is really interesting. It's not something we generally talk about on the episode, but it definitely has so much relevance to what we're talking about today. And me being in Long Beach right now, and I've been in LA for a couple of days, I've seen these Coco robots all over the streets. I've walked past them. They've driven past me. They are everywhere. And the fascinating thing I think about this particular article is that the movie business, advertising, marketing professionals are getting to understand what supply chain opportunities are out there. And so in this particular instance, they're talking about advertising on the delivery robots of a movie. And I don't think it just starts and ends there. I think there's a lot of opportunity and things to think about, how we can think about outside of supply chain when it comes to advertising and marketing. What did you think about this, David?
I thought this was pretty cool. And it really made me think about like, well, what other stuff do people want to do with robots, right? We were chatting just before. I said, wouldn't it be cool to have like a bopping robot playing music while you're eating pizza? Like, I do think that as you have, so first of all, I love autonomous anything, right? I especially like the humanoid robot advances. They've been sort of starting to advance a little bit further along with the rest of the AI technology that we've been seeing. I've been following NVIDIA's got a lot of posts on robotics technology, and I do think there's a huge opportunity to like include the delivery as part of the delight, right? And we try to do that every day here by just being really good at it and making sure that we're in touch as much as we can be and proactively dealing with issues that might come up. But this is a whole other level that I think as you have more autonomous systems, you can really take advantage of sort of making somebody smile, you know, and making it memorable. Like how do you make delivery memorable? I think this was a good example of that.
Well, and it was interesting because the tracking technology that they use for these robots are also ingesting data around marketing, and they can give not only tracking data, but they can give campaign data back to, I think it's Prime, back to Prime to let them know how well this campaign actually did. And so
So
we're
cool.
marrying supply chain data with marketing and advertising data, which is a little bit mind blowing. And when we were talking right before we went live, I do want to mention this because Bill, the owner of OneRail, was talking to somebody about drones the other day. And they weren't just thinking about business delivery, they were actually thinking about it as an entertainment factor and possibly doing delivery by drones of pizza to a birthday party.
That's cool. Everybody loves drones. Yeah, I can imagine. Why not? Why not do a little drone display because it's somebody's birthday? And as far as when you think about where we are right now as being able to collect metrics and stuff, there's a whole lot of advances over the past 15, 20 years that have really gone into being able to do like the vision tracking, knowing when somebody's looking at your thing that's crawling around the street. There's just so much that goes into it. And I think you're going to, because of that slow kind of trickle and culmination of advances, now you're starting to see some of this really pop, and there's going to be more and more of that over the next 5 to 10 years, I think.
Yes, well, that's awesome. I want to say thank you so much to everybody who watched and listened today. David, you shared some amazing insights on the show today, and I really appreciate you for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad that I could help.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll see everybody next Tuesday. Have a great week, everyone. Bye bye.